So shall we begin, please? We ask people to the table, people from the institutions to come to the table. And we will have the transmission, the streaming transmission until 4 o'clock. Afterwards, we go to the workshops, and then our technical support staff will finish his job, and we have to thank them because they did a great job. And that's it. So let's begin with this panel with the 3 institutions that are going to present papers. Thank you very much.
So it's 15, 20 minutes. Okay, so shall we start, yes? Yes. Hello to everybody. I know it's a very difficult task for any speaker to be the first speaker after the lunch, but I take it as a privilege because while we are digesting our food, we can also have some food for our minds. And our presentation is about perspectives on teachers' doctoral education from knowledge transmitters to knowledge creators. As you may see, it's a presentation made in the name of University of Bucharest team. Me and my colleague, we are both involved in this presentation, but he was so generous to let me to take all the credit for it, so I'm here using this advantage. But I do hope that if there are criticisms or tough questions, you will join me. We will share this. We hope that this is a challenge title for you. It is a challenge launched by Anca, represented by my colleague some years ago in a conference in your university, so we are almost in the same space somehow. And by this title, we enter in a very classical, long, never-ending discussion about the roles of the teachers in the classroom. Our colleague, Carrie Smith, just said that teachers have doubts. Sometimes they think, should I transmit more knowledge? Should I give them more lectures? Should I give more space for interaction? So I think this is, in a way, you open in a very good way our presentation. This is a core of our discussion for the next 15 minutes. I know for sure that we will not, or 20, okay. So, of course, our intention is not to enter and to enter in all the theoretical background about it, or to offer you an extensive review of literature, because, of course, we all know it and it's too much, but to reveal the links between the theories, the practice, the policies, and the research. Because the last part of the presentation will be on research, focused somehow also on this issue. We want to do this because we think that it's a time for filling the gap between the too many policies and strategies in the field of teacher education and not enough consequences in the practical issue in the real classroom. So this is the issue, to have this link between all these levels of discussion from policy, research, practice, and back to strategies again. Well, like it was said, there are some dilemmas for the teachers. For centuries, teachers were considered experts in the classroom, experts in the field. But this perspective was challenged by different studies, by constructivists, by a lot of studies were saying that teachers are more than that, or that students should have more space for creating their own truth. This is, I think, a core image for our presentation, the fact that the truth is not just what we wrote in a very big book or in a very good book, no matter how good it is. The truth is combined and created from different sources, and students have a role in doing this. And in this way, we paralleled the two paradigms we are talking about in the title. The one we called traditional, and the one inspired by the social constructivist perspective, the one who puts the student in the middle. So in the next slide, you'll see some of flashes of how different and appropriate and connected are the theories one to each other. Of course, we all know these things, and the first thought we had about this, it was how we perceive knowledge as teacher. How do we think we relate to knowledge, because this is very important in our relation with kids. And in the traditional perspective, as you may know, knowledge is perceived as being external to the kid. It's some body of knowledge, of ideas, of thought, of good thought, exterior to our mind, being somewhere outside our mind. And the role of teacher in this, what I call traditional perspective, is to take this knowledge and to pour it in the children's open, this is also to make a point, yes, in the children open heads. In the other perspective, like it is here written, the knowledge is not something put in a cupboard, it's constructive. If in the first perspective someone has talked even about mortuary view on knowledge, a very tough word, but I just put there to challenge you. It means something like knowledge is dead, it's somewhere outside, it's somewhere you should take from one part to move to another one, and it's not vivid. In the other perspective, the knowledge is created, is constructed, and this is important because here the students have an important role. I will continue to put some flashes on the two perspectives. And now it's not just about the knowledge, it's about the teacher perspective, the teacher's position in the classroom related to the two paradigms. In the first one, the teachers are experts, are mainly experts of the knowledge, and having this position, they are entitled to decide the structure, the content, the learning task, and everything is structured, clear, the answers are correct all the time. So this is somehow the traditional perspective. And here you can find the 3T approach, which I characterize this perspective, is not just 3 R's, reading, learning, and arithmetics, but it's just also 3T. And I think we can think about this talk test, text test. We met in our scholarity, we met in our practice, the moment when we are 3T teachers, I suppose, and we know what it means when we met these persons. In the other perspective, of course, teacher is not the only source of knowledge. He or she, they are a facilitator, a helper to the student, and the role of the teachers is to create environment in which individual can construct knowledge. As you can see here, I just highlighted some words. In one perspective, it's something about giving a lecture. The word giving sounds very powerful to someone who have to take notes. So if someone is giving and someone is taking, that means a very traditional process. And a teacher has to taught the course material and the students to take it. In the other perspective, the social constructivist was one. We talk about preparing the learning environments, about effective developments, motivating, and in the end, they construct together, because you are talking about the learning process for the both, they construct together a unique constructive knowledge. And I will finish with the same highlighting words. And here I want just to bring in your attention again famous study, TALIS, Teaching and Learning International Surveys. It was preoccupied, I don't know how you really read this, but they was preoccupied also to analyze this dimension beside other dimensions, and they talked in this report, and here you have one talking about the result of this survey. I just took some information out of it. And they were really discussing about these two paradigms they found into the real classrooms they researched. The traditional one we are talking about and the socio-constructivist one, and also the distinctions you may see here, and they are also in the same line as the distinction we had before. And this is just a challenge for you to go to the materials if you didn't do it until now. But there are comparisons between countries. Countries are ranked by the strengths of preference among their teachers in each country between direct transmission beliefs about teaching and constructivist beliefs about teaching. And here you can see that there are countries like Austria, Michael, who have a strong preference for constructivist beliefs over the direct transmission beliefs. And there are countries where we can say it's almost the same level and endorsements by both teaching beliefs and by direct transmission and constructivist beliefs. And of course, you may see other differences between countries where one way of transmitting or creating knowledge is prevalent to the other one. And it's a long discussion here. Teacher in Eastern Europe countries lie somehow in between. I will go a little bit further. Here are the distinctions I was talking about. And okay, what the people who analyze this data did further, they asked themselves a question which I consider very important. Are teachers who hold, let's say, constructivist beliefs more or less likely also to hold direct transmission beliefs and vice versa? So that means if you are a traditional teacher, you rest for being a traditional teacher. If you are a social constructivist one, you rest like that. Or you can share both positions depending on the task, on the context, on the environment. And here you see the analysis that there are countries where teachers feel comfortable in both paradigms, let's say. And here you can see the disposition of countries. And one conclusion of Tallis' author, which I totally agree, that we should not create an artificial distinction between the two of them. Teachers should not be seen as applying just only one dimension or the other. They can feel more comfortable in one direction, but that doesn't mean they have one level, traditional or not, or the other way around. And from this point of view, I think I can bring your attention to this slide, which I really do believe it's the essence of what I said until now, that we have these paradigms, whatever. Okay, that's good to have a team teaching here, so, okay. And for me, it's important not the knowledge transmission or the knowledge creation, but it's important this and between of them. We can find, I think, in education, the middle way of balancing the whole of the two approaches. And you know, there is a classical distinction of being sage on the stage, as teacher, the expert, who is on the stage, being the expert and the sage one, or guiding on the side, which is a constructivist approach. But I think we can invent, for the sake of our discussion, also other concepts which can be useful for our approach. Guided participation can be one of them, which I consider very fruitful for our discussion, or if we like to play more with words, meddler in the middle. This one, it's coined by Macmillan in a discussion about life learning projects and the way the new technologies are changing our lives. So this one, it's made in this context. So having this in mind, I want to now to present a little bit a research we made home in our schools. And we consider that school can be important source of knowledge. It can be a knowledge creator. And here is the underlying concept of this idea is knowledge creating school. It's not just the school delivers or create knowledge, but at its turn, school can offer a lot of information for improvement, for development. And we tried to develop a project which was called School as It Is, Portrait of Students and Teachers in Romanian Education System. It was a project designed and implemented by the University of Bucharest, financed by UNICEF and Central Education 2000 Plus Romania, and a Romanian NGO. And the intention of the project was to see how the Romanian school does look today. We know a lot of things about school, but we forgot to enter the real classroom and the real school. And these were some of the questions we had in mind when we designed the research. We have this kind of research instrument, questionnaire for teachers, 500 almost interviews with teachers, focus group with teachers and students, teachers and students, it should be here, but this means I'm without admitting a teacher-centered approach person, if I put two eyes teachers. Student drawings, it was very important for us to see the student voice in the picture as when we are talking about a school as a knowledge creator. Student composition about my classroom and my teacher, and also research projects, what Michael said as being some sort of vignette. We have our students in master's studies and doctoral education. They were our field researcher, and they have to note down all their observation when they were in a school. So this was some sort of research diary, which were really very important, very fruitful information for the project, and I think also for our discussion. I will just say some words about some of them, because in the end, depending on the time, I would like to stress about one only question from our questionnaires. So about student drawings, I took it as being very important because despite the fact that all the teachers, Romanian teachers which were interviewed, declared that they like to be social constructivist, they like cooperative methods, they like to work in groups. So everybody declared things like that. When students drawn their classroom, we only have drawing of classroom in a very traditional way, with desk in rows, with teacher in the front of them. So from hundreds of drawings, there was only one drawing when you can see students around the table showing some cooperative physical arrangement of tables. And also as proven that the classroom is still test, text, and talk approach, the most significant element, of course, of the classroom was the blackboard, which was huge, over-representative, presented in all the student drawings. That means also the teacher is the center person, it's the expert, the blackboard as a symbol of the teacher is also very present in their mind. And when something was written, because we are talking about written literacy in the classroom, when something was written on the table, you can guess what it was written? When something was written, especially there were mathematics exercises, and I checked all of them were correctly solved. So that means, like I found lately in another research, that's fun, you don't look like a teacher. It's Claudia Mitchell and Sandra Weber. They were also examining children drawings, and they said mathematics seems to be a universal subject that everywhere my classroom means my classroom of mathematics. So it happens also in Romania. We are very mathematics table classroom. Okay, so I just, there are more conclusions, and more of them are going in the same directions. Teachers are declaring that they are modern approaches, but if you go beyond the declaration, you find the other way around. One question from the questionnaires, I told you it was about metaphors of teaching. So we were asked the teachers to complete the sentence. Teaching is, or teaching means, and it was an open sentence for avoiding the danger of biasing the teacher responding. We didn't want to give them alternatives. It was a free, open choice. And of course, we wanted to elicit the metaphors that Romanian teachers hold about teaching and learning. And I think we can also, because I want you also to get to be involved in this presentation, we can have an exercise in our mind, and we can add a metaphor to this sentence. What does it mean, teachers, for each of us? And if you do this, I will tell you the rest of the research. It's the fact that Romanian teachers, here are some things about how important it is to use metaphor in analyzing teachers' beliefs, because sometimes we face things, but metaphors put us in the position to reveal realities we are not thinking that we would like to share to the others. So, and okay, you can see that we are well aware that there are difficulties in working with the methods. We try to have all the methodological concerns about the methods. I will go a little bit further because I don't want to lose time with this. So what does it mean, teachers for Romanian teaching? Yeah, it's the end. What does it mean, teaching for Romanian teachers? We have 98 well-articulated metaphors or branches of metaphors. And here you can see there is another study from Turkey. They did almost the same approach. And they, in their study, they put the metaphors they found for teachers, for what teaching means, in the two boxes we are talking about right now, the traditional perspective and social constructivist one. So leader, commander, president in the first box, the other one, like counselor, are in the other one. I didn't want to do this because it was easy, because I just want to present you some of these metaphors, and it's a way for us to reflect which of them we will associate with some constructivist approach, or which of them are traditional, or which of them are in the middle, or if some metaphors are valid for one context or for the other one. So the most frequent metaphors for teaching in Romania was teacher as knowledge provider, so the first perspective. Teaching is like writing a novel, writing a letter, being an encyclopedia, being Discovery Channel, so provide information. This was very, very frequent. The second one, I think, which is very, very frequent, was about the growth theme metaphor. Gardening, being a farmer, cultivating seeds, soil, trees, flower, everything which can be cultivated was present there. Teacher as a craft person. In this context, the teacher is a master, the student is a raw material who has to be transformed, prelucrated, and teacher was a potter, a sculptor, a painter, a constructor. Teacher as the authority figure. It was a shepherd, a captain, a plane pilot, also a facilitator, but not so frequent as I expected, talking to friends. For some teachers, this was a definition of teaching. Also very frequent was teacher as an artist, a well-crafted person. It's singing alone or in an orchestra with the others. Going to the theater, a very frequent metaphor about teaching. And the teacher felt that you go to that theater when it's all the time the first nice performance. It's the first time when you perform, you feel you have to take it from the beginning all the time. And there are a lot of critics around, which are the children, of course. A composer, a musician, also very important, like a sport team training a football team. Very frequent going to the circus. That's why I didn't want to go further with the analyze, because we can analyze it for ourselves, why teaching is a circus for a lot of teachers, and what does it mean? Very frequent in the Romanian system, there were these, let's say, romantic metaphors about teaching. Being a light, a candle, a torch, consuming yourself or the others, but a very, very frequent metaphor about teacher. And here you can see also others, climbing a mountain, working in a coal mine. It was repeated several times. And once it was in a coal mine, but working with diamonds, which is sort of appreciating the students. Building a house, opening everything which can be opened from house, a door, a gate, a window, picking flowers, being young. Teaching makes you to feel young, forever young. Touching the sky, the infinite, being close by God. This is the way Romanian teacher felt. Passing an exam all the time, telling stories, walking in the forest, being a cook, going to a trip, swimming against the river. And you can see all of them. There are here. There are plenty of metaphors. I just want to finish with this two quotation for the research. It's the last slide, Anna. Because I can draw more conclusions and recommendations, my colleague will do this in the end, because we split it somehow in the end of the conference. So the conclusions and recommendations will be after that. I just want to leave you with this quotation from our research. So if someone will ask you if you want to be a teacher, the children said no, and it was a very strong no. But because we are recording, I don't want to really read it like that. And something which will stay in my mind all the time after this research: how do you see an ideal teacher, being a traditional, a constructivist, no matter how? One student said, well, I don't know. I can't even imagine that. So I leave you with this quotation, and each of us will understand what we would like out of this quotation of some children's declaration. Thank you very much.
Thanks.